Good morning. So happy to see you all. Cool. All right. Welcome to Horizon Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Lisa Casto. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm oldish with gray hair and lavender glasses. And I'm serving as your worship associate this morning, as well as the president of the board of trustees at Horizon. We are really excited to welcome you to our worship service this morning. We're so glad to have you with us today. Whether you're joining us in person or virtually, I can't ever remember where the camera is, but hello, wherever you are. Whether you're here for the first time or whether you've been here for longer than you can remember. And I see some people who've been here a long time. Here at Horizon, we welcome people of all faiths and of no faith in particular. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey, you're welcome among us.
Our call to worship this morning is from Molly Hausch-Gordon. We gather together this morning tenderly like drops of dew on a leaf of grass, hopefully like gathered raindrops in a cloud, gleefully like water running in a stream to the sea, deeply like groundwater pulled up from a well. We gather from every direction for another year of growth and depth, another year of companionship and hope, another year of learning to love this world. We gather like the water that joins all of creation, the water that connects us within and without, merging and flowing across the entire world.
Our chalice lighting this morning is from Leslie Takahashi. We light this chalice for all who are here and all who are not, for all who have ever walked through our doors, for those who may yet find this spiritual home, and for those we can't even yet imagine. For each of us and for all of us, may this flame burn warm and bright. Please join me in our affirmation, which is printed on the back of your order of service and projected on the screen. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our opening hymn, hymn number 136 in the gray hymnal, Where Gentle Tides Go Rolling By.
Where gentle tides go rolling by along the salt sea strand, the colors blend and rollers one together in the sand. And often through the winds entwined we stand and listen down the quiet joys of humankind.
Before we have our story for all ages, I want to invite my partner, Alex Jacobson, to come up. And I want to remind everyone that we partner with MetroCrest Services to make a difference in our community. In our newsletter, there's always an article stipulating what MetroCrest would like for its pantry. Things like toiletries, menstrual products, baby diapers and wipes, and shelf-stable food items, and we request that those items do not be contained in glass, in boxes or cans only. So at this time, if you brought donations for MetroCrest, I'm going to ask you to send them to the center, and I'm going to ask the kids, the young, and the young at heart to come to the front row here for a story for all ages. Well, good morning, everyone. Hi, so good to see everybody. Some of you I haven't seen since the spring, so it's wonderful. So today we're going to have a story called Higgins, the Drop with a Dream. I love this story. So let's begin. On a moonless night, a tiny snowflake fell from a great cloud. It floated slowly downward with thousands of other flakes coming to rest on the jagged peak of a mountain.
A wind whistled over the mountain, carrying the snowflake back up into the air. The snowflake twisted and spun, swirling into a pond on the mountainside. The snowflake melted into a droplet, but as the days grew colder, the pond froze.
As the sun grew warmer, the ice began to melt. The snowflake became a droplet of water once again. It fell through a crack in the rocky ground, and it trickled down into the ground under the mountain, and downward, down, it sank into the blackness under the mountain. And not only that drop, but millions and millions of other droplets, and it splashed into an underground stream that flowed deep into the earth.
A shiny metal pump sucked the droplet through a maze of zigzagging pipes into the irrigation system of a nearby farm. It spun through a long rubber hose, swished into a spinning sprinkler, and squirted up into the air. The drop flew in a great arc, landing at last on the leaf of a cabbage plant.
Now, this was no ordinary drop of water. This drop was Higgins, and Higgins had a dream. Higgins knew that the valley around him had not had rain for a very long time, and so all the lovely green grass was turning brown, the beautiful flowers were wilting, and even the trees were starting to droop.
Higgins had a dream that one day the valley would be a beautiful place again. But what could he do? After all, he was only a drop of water. One day, Higgins decided to travel and tell others about his dream. All the other drops listened very politely, but no one believed that his dream would come true.
Higgins decided he had to do something to make his dream come true. So he began to think and think and think some more. One day, as he was walking by an old metal bucket, he got an idea.
Higgins thought, if enough of us drops of water got together in this bucket, there would be enough water to sprinkle on a few flowers to help them grow and be beautiful again.
Eagerly, Higgins told everyone his great idea, but everyone thought he was being a little foolish. Higgins decided he had to do something to convince the others that he was right. So he said to them,
I don't know about you, but I'm getting in that bucket. I hope some of you will join me. Then there might be enough water to help at least some flowers grow again.
So Higgins ran as hard as he could, hopped up into the air, and landed with a ker-plunk at the bottom of the bucket. And then there he sat, one drop in a bucket.
For a long time, Higgins was very lonely. It seemed like no one else was going to join him. But after a while, some of the other drops could see that the grass was dying and the flowers were wilting and the trees were drooping. They all agreed that something must be done.
Suddenly, one drop said,
I'm going in the bucket with Higgins. And that droplet leapt up through the air and landed ker-plunk in the bucket next to Higgins. Then 2 other drops yelled, "Hey, wait for us!" And they hopped through the air and landed in the bucket too. Then 10 drops jumped through the air into the bucket. Then 30, then 50, then hundreds of drops came from all around just to hop in the bucket. Soon, the bucket was completely full of water.
Along came a powerful breeze that blew the bucket over, and everywhere the water flowed, the grass turned green again, and the flowers bloomed, and the trees stood straight and tall once more.
All this happened because Higgins had a dream, and his dream came true. Because he knew that although he was just 1 drop in a bucket, enough drops in a bucket is a bucketful. So thank you all for listening so much. Thank you, Alex, for telling this story with me. Let's go ahead and sing you out to our classes.
Today is our water ceremony. Each year as we gather in the fall, it is our custom to offer water as a symbol of our connection one to the other. This morning, we will have 4 periods of sharing. We're going to share whatever water we have brought. We want to share with one another not only where our water comes from, but share what it means to us, what it symbolizes in our own lives. So this is a little different, but I think you'll really appreciate this ceremony. First, we will have a chance to share water that reminds us that while some have abundance, others struggle in scarcity. Second, we will share water that symbolizes travel, movement, and change. Third, we will share water that reminds us of life's springs, our concerns, worries, frustrations, and losses. Finally, we'll share water that reminds us of the well springs of our lives. So please don't worry about which time for sharing is the right time. The really great thing about symbols is that they're always open to many interpretations. If you're joining us virtually, we invite you to symbolically pour water into your bowl during the period that most speaks to you. We will be keeping water from the water ceremony for next year's ritual. If you would like to have some of your water included in the water we keep, please feel free to drop some off to Reverend Chris in the Horizon office next week, and we'll add it.
These containers, empty of water, remind us of all who lack access to safe and affordable water. There are times in each of our lives when we feel we don't have what we need to go on. There may be something lacking in life or a sense that we don't have enough. It is these times that the river of community can nourish our dry souls and remind us that we are still held in the greater whole. I'm going to invite Lisa to come and pour with me the first drops into our bowl, symbolizing the water that nourishes our community. If you would like to share water representing an awareness of scarcity in our community or in our lives, please come forward bringing your water and pour a little of it into the common bowl as Carmen plays some soft music. If you do not pour any water with you today, we invite you to pour some from the glass pitcher containing sacred water from the taps of the Horizon Kitchen. If you would like assistance pouring your water, or you would like someone to get your water for you from your seat, please raise your hand, and we have a couple of volunteers who would be more than willing to help.
This is the time for our offering. We have a special announcement from Sandy Steele about this month's Share the Plate.
Good morning. My name is Sandy Steele. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm oldish with white hair and brown glasses. On Sunday, July 23rd, around 12:30 a.m., Community UU Church of Plano suffered a firebomb attack, destroying their front door and badly damaging their foyer. No one was injured, but this act has traumatized the congregation, and all of us were horribly shocked by the news. So this month, Community UU is the recipient of our Share the Plate collection, helping our sibling church recover from this hate-filled act. If you were here at the end of July, many of you filled out those handwritten notes that we sent to community with messages of hope and help. I delivered those cards a few days later, and they were, Reverend Aya and her team were in stringing cards along the walls already. I called Rev Aya last week, and she said the walls were filled with cards up and down the foyer, in the halls, through the sanctuary. There was a huge outpouring of love from UU churches and other churches in the area, not just UU, so that's always really good to hear. Community plans to leave those cards up until the winter holidays, and then they plan to make a piece of art from all of that, so that should be really interesting. Reverend Aya told me that the foyer has been repaired now, but their door is still waiting to be installed. And they've installed some new security cameras around their campus as well, a necessary but unbudgeted expense. Unfortunately, the perpetrator of this crime has not been identified, and the police don't offer a lot of hope for that. But the spirit of community is strong, and our connection with them is getting stronger. With Reverend Ayadun as their minister, she was an intern here at Horizon right before the pandemic hit. She was our intern minister. Many of us know and love her, gentle spirit, loving heart, and she was actually in our pulpit as a guest minister the day after that attack. So we're all really, a number of you voiced a desire to help more when you were writing the cards. So I hope you will give generously for our Share the Plate today and this month. They have insurance, but our gift will help offset the many costs and help them rebuild going into the new year. You may give in the plate today and online or via check all month long. Thank you.
This is the second part. Water has the power to change shape and form, transforming itself through its lifetime. The water you bring with you today has existed in many times and places, serving monarchs and commoners, nourishing plants, fungi, animals, and bacteria. Just as the water changes shape, our lives change shape as well. Now I invite you to share water that reminds you of the spiritual challenges and transformations in your lives, your journeys, whether spiritual or physical. If you did not bring any water with you today, we invite you to pour some from the glass pitcher into the bowl. If you would like assistance pouring your water, please raise your hand, and there are volunteers who will help you. The first reading is from Sharon Salzberg. Our ideas of strength so often surround images of things that are hard, like a rock or a clenched fist. Perhaps that's why we think love doesn't include strength, just softness. We are thinking in only one dimension. That's why I think of water in all its manifestations. Look at the many ways we experience water. It trickles, spurts, floods, pours, streams, soaks, and shows itself in many more modes. All these convey evanescence, release, flow. They are all about not being stuck. Water is flexible, taking the shape of whatever vessel it flows into. It's always interacting, changing, in motion, yet revealing continual patterns of connection. Water can be so expressive, a signal of our most heartfelt feelings. We cry tears of sorrow, tears of outrage, tears of gratitude, and tears of joy. Water can be puzzling, seeming weak or ineffectual, yielding too much, not holding firm. And yet, over time, water will carve its own pathway even through rock. And yes, water freezes, but it also melts. Human beings have always found uplift and inspiration in metaphors like water, but we also take inspiration from other people and their strength and resiliency in the face of difficult circumstances, the ways in which they unfreeze themselves and make change.
We now take time to honor the joys and sorrows of this community, knowing that we are interconnected and that what affects one affects us all. I have a sorrow for the people of Morocco. Our hearts go out for those who have lost loved ones or are suffering from the earthquake in Morocco. And we light a candle this morning to honor all the joys and sorrows which have gone unspoken and reside only in our hearts. Will you please join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation in whatever way feels right, with these words from Matt Alspaugh. After the reading, we'll have a moment of silence, which will be broken by our responsive hymn, number 1010 in the Till hymnal, We Give Thanks. A glass of tea sweats a circle of droplets on an old table. Drying, they pull dirt and stain from the wood, leaving a ring. Water makes its mark. Deep in the earth in a cave, a drop falls each minute. Where it lands, a great pillar of white rock has grown up. Water makes its mark. On the surface above, a stream burbles and flows, carving out potholes in the granite of its bed. Water makes its mark. Along a highway cut, a geologist points out the layers of tan slate, each penny-thin sheet, the memory of a torrential rainstorm eons ago. Water makes its mark. In its network of veins, the blood, salty like the seawater from which we spring, flows on in cycles, giving life. Water makes its mark. The dark clouds pass on, yielding no rain. Crops wither and drought comes. Famine, migration, violence, and death soon follow. Water makes its mark. A space probe turns its camera towards whence it came, imaging one solitary pixel of light, its color, the pale blue of oceans. Water makes its mark. A solitary tear slides down the cheek, a tear of abiding joy, a tear of unending grief. We see and share the depth of feeling at its true core. Water makes its mark. Blessed be. Just as water is a part of storms, the storm of life can feel drenched in water that weighs us down. These difficult periods can feel like they last forever. But water can be healing as well. Indigenous and pagan religions speak of rivers as places of healing, where afflictions, physical, emotional, and spiritual, find cleansing. Now it's time to share water, symbolizing the storms in our life, the concerns and sorrows, confusions and frustrations. Allow this vessel to be one of receiving and healing as it absorbs your storm. If you do not bring any water with you today, we invite you to pour some from the glass pitcher into the bowl. If you would like assistance pouring your water, please raise your hand and one of our volunteers will be happy to help.
Amazing. Without water, living beings would soon die. Water sustains us, and with the hot days we've been having in Dallas-Fort Worth area, hopefully gone, we need more water than usual. Just so, we need things that sustain us, that carry us to the next phase of our lives. Our water can symbolize this, how we're nourished to do the work we're called to do. As we conclude our water ceremony, I invite you to bring water that reminds you of the well springs of your life, the water that sustains you when you're feeling empty, the joys that give you hope and buoy you up. If you did not bring any water today, we invite you to pour some from the glass pitcher into the bowl. And if you would like assistance pouring your water, please raise your hand and our volunteers will assist you. Our second reading is from Mike Johnson. In our water ritual, we bring water from the places we live or the places we have visited and pour into one container. All of the water mixes together, and every drop has some of the molecules of water from every place. So, if you take a small bottle of water out, you have the waters from many places in one bottle. Each time you have a water ritual, you add some water from the bottle you saved from the previous ritual. In that way, each ritual, each small bottle contains the waters from all over the world. Why would we want to have a small bottle of water? From everywhere in the world? That sounds good. For me, first of all, it is one more way to make tangible the sacredness of water. All life comes from water and needs water to survive. Water moves through the whole ecosystem, nurturing and transforming life as it moves. It rises from the ocean in evaporation, forming clouds in the sky. And blown by the winds, it returns to the land in the form of rain or snow. This precipitation falls into the soil and gathers in streams and aquifers. In the midst of this journey, it also travels through the bodies of every living thing. Every being needs water: insects, birds, mammals, fish, humans. Water also rises up into the stems of plants and the trunks of trees. But none of the water is isolated. Even our own bodies are part of the watershed. The water goes back into the air or the earth and continues in streams and rivers on the way to the ocean, like our character earlier today. The cycle keeps going round and round. All the water on earth is really one water, continuously flowing through the biosphere. Even if we get water from our kitchen tap, that water has been around the world on its journey. All water is connected and connects all life. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as you're willing and able for our next hymn, number 1007 in the Teal hymnal, "There is a River Flowing in My Soul."
I grew up in southern Indiana on the banks of the mighty Ohio River, but truth be told, my hometown Jeffersonville and nearby Louisville, which was the big city, probably never would have existed were it not for the Ohio. Both cities provided a convenient place for port towns, providing wayfaring stations for weary crew taking goods down to the Mississippi or further north towards Pittsburgh and on into other distant places. In some ways, the cities are still defined by the river. Jeffersonville is home to the Howard Steamboat Museum, where visitors can learn all about steamboats and their importance in connecting goods across the nation. And one of the primary tourist attractions in Louisville continues to be the Belle of Louisville, an old-style paddle steamboat that reminds people of how travelers have traversed that river as long as we can remember. Since white settlers first pushed west from New England into the Appalachians, the Ohio assured that there would always be able to have a way to get people into the newly colonized lands. But even before white people stepped foot in the United States, Native American tribes, too, depended on the river for food, water, minerals, and other resources. Indeed, for many pagans and indigenous religions, bodies of water, such as rivers, are considered sacred, given to us by the gods to help sustain us through life. In fact, in Celtic traditions, water symbolized potentiality, the basis for all life. The Celts universally believed that all rivers had a goddess. The river held a healing power that could bring health and vitality to the people of the region, but also ruin to those who attempted to transgress. In fact, river goddesses were often viewed as mothers, holding the power to nurture the potential of an entire region of people. In other words, for white settlers, Native American and Celtic worshipers alike, the river symbolized the very possibility of life. I was thinking about this as I composed this homily to complement our water ceremony. After all, one of the most frequent criticisms of the Unitarian Universalist water ceremony is that it has the potential to devolve into a classist-sounding travelogue, a time for some people to brag about where they've been and how much money they spent, and while others of us are sitting there like, I wish I could have gone to Milan this summer. Now, there's nothing wrong with traveling. In fact, it doesn't take long talking with me to realize that it has shaped me. But many feel that the travelogue water ceremony misses the mark on community building, instead becoming an opportunity for bragging and storytelling. And yet, despite these criticisms, there's something that I love about this ritual. After all, in our culture, the summer does tend to mark a time of different activities. School letting out more travel time and recreation time, and hopefully a little bit of time spent in nature when it's not 110 out. The water ceremony marks the end of this time, a coming back together after different summer activities. And it's often the minister's first sermon back after leaving for General Assembly in June. In this way, we travel back together, bringing what gifts we have and hoping that our cups will be healed with the healing waters that come from a caring community that holds us in its embrace. In this way, our church becomes like a river, transporting people down to find the goods that will nurture them, the healing waters that will transform them, and even the joy of simply riding upon her if you're one of those people who enjoy steamboat rides. I say that non-sarcastically because I have many friends who do. And our church becomes a port for weary travelers trying to find their way in a world that's often unpredictable, sometimes dangerous, and often demanding. Just as travelers of yore disembarked in port cities like Louisville and Jeffersonville, looking for nourishment and entertainment during a long trip, so today people find their ways to our congregation, looking for a place where their soul can find nourishment. After all, you could have slept in this morning, let's be real. Every one of you could have, and you're here. Or as Unitarian Universalist theologian James Luther Adams once put it, church is a place where you get to practice what it means to be human. But there's more. See, the river doesn't just take you to our church. You are the river. Each of you, a droplet that forms a wide body of water that will nourish, sustain, and heal others who find their way here. Already this morning, I've heard leaps of joy about people you haven't seen in a while, and sadness that others haven't been able to join. If none of you came to church this morning, this building would have remained empty. Trust me, I would have not been up here preaching to an empty room. And none would have found the encouragement they needed to keep going, because each of you take time every single week to come and share your time, your talent, and your treasure with us. And as I'm fond of sometimes saying, there is some magic that happens when you do, because something is created where previously there was nothing. And together we create a place for all of us that affirms the potential of beloved community in North Texas. I want you to imagine that with me for just a minute. That you saw that little droplet during the moment for all ages this morning? Well, you are that droplet. You're that droplet on a journey. And you have the potential to heal someone in this room, whether through a kind word, a listening ear, a stimulating discussion, or even just your presence in the room. It can help someone here more than you will ever know. Each of us is making a difference. But my hope is that we don't just make a difference 1 hour a week, but we take the nourishment we find in this place into the world, into our families, our work, our school, and all the other places we find ourselves. In this way, our healing water has the potential to transform the world for the better. Because just as the second reading that Lisa read says, all these drops of water in this bowl this morning have been around the world before they found their way here. And just so the kind acts that you can do have been around the world and back. None of us will do this perfectly, but what if our aspiration could be to heal the world by healing ourselves? It's easy to get discouraged and want to give up. What with all the bad news constantly happening in the world, I could have filled joys and sorrows with more than just one this morning. But there are times when I need community to hold me, to remind me that while I might not know what the world will bring, as long as our rivers flow to the seas of humanity, there is still possibility. One of the great things about starting at a congregation is I get to hear so many of your stories, and I can tell you without breaking confidence that on a nearly daily basis, I hear testimonies of how being a part of this church has impacted people for the better, or helped them bring their full selves, or reminded them that they are loved, and not just loved, but lovable. These stories happen because each person here was willing to bring themselves, imperfect as we each are, and dare to create something larger than any one of us could have done on our own. This is what I want people to remember from the water ceremony. When you go to coffee hour a little bit later and you're discussing where your water came from, don't just let it be a travel log of where you've been, but let it be what you're bringing from there in order to nourish the world. Because the water that you bring to this service is symbolic of the presence you bring to church every week. And I'm bringing back an old tradition that hasn't been here for some time. Your water is going to be living with me in my office for the next year. And this water is truly sacred, because when we mingle our waters together, something amazing and potentially life-altering happens. And maybe that's the best reason to find ways to continue this ritual, because it's a reminder that we are so much more powerful when we come together and do the messy work of creating community. So that's my message to you this week. I will admit that it's kind of an unusual situation to find myself in, where my first two services are special services like this. So consider this part one, because next week we're going to talk about the meaning of church and this community. But just remember that just as steamboats rode and continue to ride the mighty Ohio and other rivers in search of port, may our doors ever be open to weary pilgrims and travelers who need a place to anchor. And always remember that while we do this for others, we do it for ourselves too. Because as the old Bill Withers song says, "For it won't take long till I'm going to need somebody to lean on." May it be so.
We extinguish this flame, but not our commitment to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. We do because we envision a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world. I would like to invite you to rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn. Number 100 in the gray hymnal, "I've Got Peace Like a River."
Peace
Our benediction is by Kaylee Rice. It starts with a drop, then a trickle, a burble, a rush of water bubbling towards its destination, and finally, the wide, endless sea. All rivers run to the sea. Today, you brought water, poured it into a common bowl. Though our experiences have differed, those waters mingle, signifying our common humanity. Today you came and shared in this sacred community. May you depart this sacred space, hearts filled with hopes for new beginnings, a fresh start. Go forth, but return to this community, where rivers of tears may be shed, where dry souls are watered, where your joy bubbles, where your life cup overflows, where deep in your spirit you have found in this place a home. All rivers run to the sea. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace.